Woohoo! That's weird. Let's see here. All right. Let's see if that'll fix it. Yeah? Nothing? Poop. This is starting swimmingly. Well, welcome. Welcome. And excuse me for just a moment whilst I unplug a cable or two. Okay, so that should fix that. And that should fix that. Huh? That's... Isn't this great? We got technical difficulties. That's fantastic. Make sure audio is on. Yes, I'd very much like to. Hello! And welcome to Victor Plays. With any luck, we can get some audio in this. Well, evidently not. Alright, let's go back to the options. Quit the menu, please. For the love of God. Let's see, did that get muted or something? No. Hello, check. Nope, that is not it at all. Is that doing anything for you? The beginner's guide, is that helping you at all? Criminy. This game is just not happy to run in a window. Yeah, I think that's the... Yeah, I'm coming through fine, but the game, not so much. Let's try switching over to here. Alright, can I hear that? Is that playing? Woo! Isn't it great? We start a brand new, thing with this new format. What happens? Technical difficulties. All the way. Come on, you. Work. Damn it. Come on. Oh, for the love of God. Well, is there something did it get muted? Is that what's going on? Is that what's happening? Come on, you. Oh, love this. Yeah, no, the game, okay, so we're gonna talk about some of this stuff as we're dealing with it. The alpaca dating sim might be on my list. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and you don't hear it, and that's the point. That's the problem here. I don't know why you don't hear it. Maybe the wire just got a little unplugged. Let me see here. Okay. We're gonna quit. We're gonna set this as default. We're gonna set this as the communications. Set this as default. Let's see if we can't get this actually working. For the love of Pete. We have audio! Oh my god, we finally have audio. Alright, well, welcome to Victor Plays. I am the eponymous Victor. Let's see if these controls work here. Ooh. Alright, so I am the, oh wow, that happens all the time. This is this is Victor Plays, I am the eponymous Victor, and, while we're Before we start off, I feel it's very important to say thank you to the people who make this possible. Thank you to Kate Macross, Edgewood Blake, Rochelle Mantanona, the Geek Nights Podcast, Mike Hudson, George Davidson, Brendan Brothers, Justin Chapman, Cole Guy, Ethan Fryer, and Pinup Citizen for donating at least $1 a month to the Patreon. Thank you guys for helping me able to suffer technical glitches live as well as do all the other stuff. And let me see, switch back to there we go. Aha. So this is the beginner's guide. This has been having this game was not selected by me, but selected by the fine people who voted for the Patreon stream. Patreon stream. Who voted? It's been a long day. Who voted at the Victor Plays interactive game queue? Link to that in the description. We're actually streaming at 1080p, and I'm hoping it's coming through okay. But YouTube says it is. OBS is a bit concerned. And the game queue is interactive every week. On Tuesday, I picked the highest ranked game there. And right now, at present, it is the Beginner's Guide, which is apparently tied with the Dark Descent. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of the Beginner's Guide since we're playing it. And if you actually go to that page, you will see that the Beginner's Guide is no longer there. Well, Jared, if you want to buy me that game, I'm assuming you're referring to the Alpaca dating sim. If you are so compelled to buy me that game, you can vote it up. You can vote it up to the top, because with the way the voting is set up is everybody can vote as many times as they want, unlimited time for unlimited number of games. So, you know, if you have the dedication to go click, 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 you're more than welcome to it. I'm fine with that. All right, let's get this started. So we're playing Beginner's Guide by, who is it by? Something Unlimited Games. How well informed I am. I have played this game in the past, and I very much enjoyed it. This is one of those artsy kind of games. Make real bad games a Patreon. Maybe. So Victor Plays is starting a new format here. The voting queue is a big part of it. But we're also going to be reviewing games. We're going to be playing them for an hour. The non-dating day. Can I tell you a little bit something about Ace Academy? I ended up finishing that game after I stopped playing it, and it just sort of stops. Nothing gets resolved. The game just sort of ends. It's just, that's a terrible way of ending a game. So what's going to happen is I'm going to play this game for an hour. I have a little stopwatch thing on my keyboard. After an hour is done, I'm going to take a minute, gather my thoughts, and then I have some review criteria for you guys. Yeah, Amnesia on the... Wait, did something dramatic happen with the vote counter? Let's see here. Boop. 27 votes. Somebody went click, click, click. I have some review criteria here that I'm gonna deal with here, and yeah, let's get this started here. Okay, so review criteria being put aside, let us begin playing the Beginner's Guide. But before we do that, let me go through here, and I'm gonna put this on the bottom left, the overlay. It's got an overlay, you know. All right, let's start the game. Hey, Gray. Please make sure audio is on. Ooh, WASD.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide.
Hi.
My name is Davey Reedon.
Hi,
I
Davey.
wrote The Stanley Parable, and while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011.
Oh.
We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made.
Ooh.
It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way.
I am walking around
mostly
here.
it's just
very exciting.
Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level.
Oh, yeah.
And of
There's
course,
some
it
blobs there.
destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here.
As a reminder,
So,
one thing I like to...
2008, Coda starts
More
making these
exposition.
games, and he never releases any of them. He doesn't put them onto the internet, he just makes them and then immediately abandons them, and they sit on his computer forever. And I think he really understood this image of himself as a recluse. At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's recycling bin to Important Games Folder. So, you know, this was just how he worked. He tended to crank them out one after the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made, until suddenly one day, he just stopped. In 2011, that was it. He made his last game, and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting.
What'd you
and
do?
I'd like
Break
this
into his
collection to
house?
reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveyWreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction.
Oh.
Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. This first one was made in November 2008.
So there is a lot of discussion about this game and whether or not it is, you know, whether or you know what? Let's play through this for a bit. Big old void. Shoink. Huh. God, that's annoying.
This game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games you'll see from Coda.
Ooh. E shoots as well. Oh, my gun's out of ammo. Boo-wah. OBS is not happy with the amount of action going on right now on this screen. Okay. Huh. Hallway. Cool beans.
Security call breached. Hostile alien life forms inbound.
Uh-oh. It didn't like that.
This game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You
Indeed.
can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets. But ultimately, we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are, rather than for what they're not.
This is not Halo. Good job, Gray.
I love how you can see the bottom of the universe from this room.
Huh. So you can. Do we? Do we? Do we? Huh. Oh wow, the frame rate is not doing well, huh? Look at that. All right, let's take a moment here. Let's pause this. And I am going to do something I probably shouldn't be doing. Just a sec here. Boop. Oh Christ, that is not a happy thing. Okay. Let's try that again. There we go. Let's bring that down a bit. Okay, so full HD streaming at 6,000 kilobits per second did not go well. We're going to try. I lowered the resolution, and we're going to try to continue from here. Okay, and go. Oh, good. The audio still works. There we go. Showing. Oh, it's a labyrinth.
Apparently, this space station has a labyrinth on it.
Yes.
Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
How charitable. Yeah, but what if I want to go back?
Or, if you'd really like to solve the labyrinth, you're welcome to do that too.
You know, I've never actually done that in this before, so that was new to me. Oh, geez, did I actually enter the labyrinth? No. Okay. All right, here we go.
Okay, this is the part that's interesting.
Is it?
The game has this narrative about the Whisper Machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
Ooh.
Hey, you there, in the engine room. You could save us all. That beam is powering the Whisper Machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
So here's the thing. If you're creating a mechanic where a person has to sacrifice themselves, that sacrifice should mean something. And I'm not sure that it does. Boink.
This is not a branching point, unfortunate. Let me pause here for a second. What you just experienced,
We just
stepping
stepped on
into the
some
beam and then
dialogue.
dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
Okay. Woo! Ah. Dig it.
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system. Or
They're
this
not that
floating
chaotic.
could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even know. I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this, something lodges itself in his brain. He wants to do more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
Okay. Oh, look. It's a brick room. Okay, so you know, Because a big part of this is part of this game is experiencing it from the perspective of a player, and to an extent you can do that because you're watching me play it, but to another extent you can't.
So
because,
try walking backwards.
Yeah, see, so it's just giving me a hint right now. It says try walking backwards, because if you hit the W key, which for a person playing a first-person shooter, and which this control scheme is really familiar with, you are not going you can't go forwards. You can, however, go backwards.
Yep.
See?
In this game, you can only walk backwards.
So it's putting up this symbology of the past being behind her and like a regression through a timeline. So you walk backwards, and there wasn't anything on this wall,
So it's a short and relatively minimalist experiment combining motion and narrative. It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more focused, more complete. Code is trying to give it a unique voice rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
Yeah. To continue on Gray was doing, if the previous one was Halo, then this is the Windows 95 Maze Maze screensaver. Why does the future keep changing? Whoop! The past was behind her. Ta-ta! Let me walk back. Oh, hey, hang on. There's a corridor there. There we go. We walk back. And when she stops and looks, it becomes clearer. So we walk, 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 walk. But if the future is always behind her, how will she find the strength to
It's a short
confront
little
it?
thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that.
Indeed.
Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
Next one, indeed. Ooh. Da-da-da-da-da. Invisible wall. You are now entering.
And that's it. Okay, the meaning of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games, and I promise you'll see what makes it interesting. Oftentimes, Coda would put bizarre titles like this one at the start of his games.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, that's your
I know
prerogative.
it's tempting, but there's actually nothing over here. Sorry.
I have not walked over here before either. So it's cool that he put a little voice trigger in there. Because, hey, player is gonna play. Oop, walk the precipice. What if I fall? Nope, can't fall off. Oh well. Ooh. You guys hear that? It was like some sort of weird and angelic choir sort of thing. All right, well, let's go where the game clearly wants us to go. So he's going to start talking about the staircase in a little bit, but before we actually get up there, I want to tell you about what's going to happen. I'm going to start climbing up the stairs, and the walk speed is going to basically slow down, so it would take effectively an eternity to get up there. He's going to fiddle with it, but before we do, I want to say that the whole mechanic of, you know, trying to climb a staircase, but not actually being able to, I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of the tale of, not Prometheus. Sisyphus? Yeah, I want to say Sisyphus. Anyways, let's go. See what I mean? Like it's right there, but you can't get to it.
Once you've been slowed to an absolute crawl, the door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
Okay, so the very first time I played this, I did not press enter. I literally went up the entire staircase at this speed. And it is possible. It's not like the staircase gets magically longer, but there you go. Let's just go. I do want to say, however, that modifying the game... Look, this whole Coda thing, spoilers, is a pretext. It's an error. There is no Coda. But if there was, modifying the game so the player couldn't experience the game as Coda designed it, kind of undermines the message, because in gameplay, the process of going through the mechanics and playing the game as the mechanics allow is part of the experience. You know? Here we go. Let's get in here then. Here we go. This is cool. I forgot how nice this room was.
A room that's warm and nice and filled with little ideas for games.
A key in one game unlocks a door in a completely separate game.
Coda would often tell me that he didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that he knew that he was actually a vibrant and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
Well, this is nice. Yeah, ludonarrative. Exactly. So, I'm just checking on the YouTube dashboard over here. It's saying a little bit of a problem. So a ludonarrative is this idea of the... So ludonarrative is like this intersection between the ludology, which if I recall correctly is the gameplay element, of a video game, and the narrative, and how the gameplay itself can form the narrative. And yeah, you should look it up. There's got to be an episode of Extra Credits about it at some point, somewhere in their huge library of awesome videos. Very industrial. Prison-ish, almost. So this element looks out of place.
This is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it.
Okay. Boop. So I know how the puzzle is solved. So you got to get in here. Then there's a switch that clips through the frame on the back of the door. Boing.
Don't forget that solution, because we're going to see this.
Okay, I gotta turn down the music or something. There is no option to turn down the music independent from the dialogue. That is something we're going to be getting back to when we're done with this.
Puzzle again soon. We're going to see it a lot.
Okay, let's get going. Okay, and here we are.
So that seems to be it, right? You walk down a corridor, you solve a puzzle, you get to the end. Simple enough. Alright, now I'm going to modify the game again, so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
Okay, then let's remove all of the walls from the room. Well, hey! That's pretty nifty.
How about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
There are arguments against that, but whatever. All right. We're gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it afterwards. But if you guys want to talk it up in there, that's more than fine. It's, you know, it's your live chat. And now exiting.
Aha. So this, combined with the entering game from earlier, tells us that Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the Stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
Okay. Boingy, 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 boingy.
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development.
It's also the fundamental core of the game itself.
To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source. Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well.
You know, I gotta say
The
that
tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're gonna end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
Okay, so that being said, there is a quote from one of the animators from the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And he was basically talking about how they spent all the time making it so that when they were doing the rotoscoping and painting the animation on top of the live action, that, you know, if, for example, in the scene where the weasels come to basically search Valiant's apartment, how they went and they did all this stuff and they had to went through such great effort to make their action realistic and make the lighting on the weasels realistic so everything looks as good as it does in that movie. And they're saying there are a lot of movies out there that don't do that, and if they don't do that, that's laziness. I don't think the medium, in the case of a video game with the engine, should be a limiting factor. Yeah, some engines are better at doing things than others, but you can totally make a curved, you know, room in Source. All right, let's get this. Here we go. There's a bathroom. Little changing table type thing. Hey, look, granite countertops. Oh, I'm stuck. Here we go. There we go. And there we are. Look at that. Door's open now. All right. Let's see if I can. I never actually tried to navigate over to there before. I don't think it's quite possible. Hey, look at that. All right. Down we go. Yeah, platformers. Whew. Almost ate it that time. Let's see, what can I jump to from here? I could make it to there. Definitely. Made it. If I recall correctly, I could just jump straight down, but this is kind of more fun, you know? Boing, boing, boing. Aha! Hardcore parkour, as the kids say. I'm dead now. Boing. I see what I mean? Alright, cool. Let's just get on with this then. Boink. Ah, yes. I remember this. Gate closes behind you. You go in here. Lift it up. Okay. And you get locked in.
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to what I was talking about. You make a prison video game. You know, if you want to give a person the experience of being in a prison, you put them in the prison and you lock the door and you keep it closed for a while. It could give a player this feeling of uncomfortableness. Anyways. Oop, nope, oh boy.
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else.
Hey, it's a sandbox game.
Every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
So again, this really kind of touches into games as art, because I believe games are art, and art doesn't necessarily have to be pleasant for the people experiencing it. Lots of art isn't. One really good example is called Piss Christ, which is a picture of, you know, a statue of Jesus Christ on a crucifix, and the picture itself is in this and the picture itself is in this little box full of piss. So, or the picture may be a picture of a Christ pendant and piss. At any rate, it was very unpleasant for people, but that was also kind of the message. You know, how can you defile something that is quote unquote sacred? So art does not necessarily have to be pleasant. Gray says, I think that comparison makes between Ryder Rabbit and Nvidia neglects the fact, oh, Roger Rabbit, you mean, Nvidia neglects the fact that people who don't are not being played as much as those who do. Okay, I can't quite say I understand that, but all right. Anyways, onward.
It's the puzzle again, with the exact same solution as the last time. There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But
it's
I promise
deceptive.
I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
So how does this stream look to you guys? Because YouTube is saying that the stream status is bad. But how does it look to you guys? Is everything smooth? Can you hear me okay? Can you see what's going on all right enough? Let me know. All right, dialogue time.
Here, Coda begins using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
Yes, there was an enormous prison I spent hours in. Yes, there were these floating colored blocks. I'd go with 3. Numpad does not work. Indeed. Yes, I did. Honesty is the best policy. So there are 3 solutions. None of them reflect an answer. None of them reflects the answer that could be given, wherein I didn't need to. How I solved it, you know? Let's see here. Boop. Alright, well, if the quality looks fine to you guys, then that's fine. Can I think harder? Must be something more. Lots of dialogue. Alright, door's open, seems like. Yep. Yep. Back again. Why would I care about the space between doors? There you go. There we go. And onward.
And so we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
Man, I forgot how pretentious this game could be. Narrator Davey gets kind of weird.
It's a
towards the end.
lamppost. Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason, Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out.
Yeah, guys, this lamppost
I'll tell you what I
so
think.
important.
I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long.
These apartments are not
Because
very.
now he wants something to
not
hold
very,
on to. He wants a
handicap
reference point.
compatible.
He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea.
Yeah, I think it is kind of the point, Stan.
And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
Whew, hiccups. I can tell you 100% this game is not connected to the internet. Nice room. Not. Ooh, so edgy.
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but this game is not connected to the internet. All of the notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda. This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually. Oh, feel free to skip over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen if you read all of them. Either way, to me they convey a sense of loneliness. I see this person who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs and has no way to express them except as scattered and unheard voices in a game that wasn't meant to be played.
Oh, hey, there's another wall here. Yeah, can't fall down that.
But it's ironic, isn't it? That in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to
If
be
you
honest
say
with
so.
you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work.
You
I
can't.
think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much, is because it felt like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his world. And then I feel less lonely too.
Projection much? You can't really get to know someone through their work. I did a lot of work commercially that has nothing of myself in it. And the works that I do make that do have part of myself in them, they're nowhere near, in depth enough or detailed enough or have enough of myself in them to be anywhere near representative of who I am. I do like that though, even though it's just like random dot testing that you can do in Python. It's pretty though. That's not to say that there aren't artists who do put a lot of themselves into their work, but I don't know. Call me a cynic, but I think everybody, even the most open people,
At the end of this level,
hide
we're going to see the
part of
puzzle again.
themselves.
And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means. Each of these games represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one. In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on. And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. Just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
But if this is supposed to separate chapters in his life, why continue one game into the space of the next? My little brother. Jump, 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 jump.
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kind of just spin its own wheels for a few minutes. Hang with it.
Do 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 do. Hey. Okay, by the way, totally dig floating glass shelves. I think they're cool. Anywho, back where we were going. Feels like an office building I was in once. And there's the well we saw
See,
outside the bars.
This is it, the whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly interesting about it. You just walk to the end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's see. Put a giant hole in the ground. Nope, table anyways. Along the wall. Yeah, you know what? 10 stoves lined up along the wall. Let's do that. Couches. I'm thinking a 10 by 12 recessed electric 6-inch soft LED ceiling lights with fluorescent trim. Yeah, that's kind of... okay, Onyx 3. Yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of what it sounds like. Oh, but maybe it's a meta commentary on criticisms of artists without really fully knowing the artist. Oh no! Oh no! Tables were invented in 1935. That is absolutely not true, and I'm just gonna pick it. Oh, that's a nice table there. Well, hey, look at that. It's like walking through an IKEA warehouse.
There's a bit more to this one, but still, it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake.
The floors are tables.
So, okay, he throws it out and starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
All right, let's see here. Oak on X003. Got it. This guide will enable you to escape any prison environment. Hey, Yuki Cookie. How you doing? Follow the instructions carefully. First, click this table. Click. Now go over to the picture frame and turn it slightly. Boop. Now turn off the floor lamp in this room, then turn it back on. Floor lamp. Click, click. Now go to the left side sofa. Move it over a little. Left side. Left side sofa. Boop. Touch the shelves. Boop. Let's see here. That's it. In a real prison, the escape will now open. Return to the start to be taken back to your prison. All right, let's go. Except there's nothing in the room to manipulate. If I recall correctly. Yeah, there's no furniture.
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape.
Never mind the fact there's no picture.
Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside. Let me just link you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen. Personally, I think it's awful.
The well is the prison.
To see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for
or
what?
Maybe
like,
he was just dicking around.
Maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on. But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop. That particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going. And then he hits on something. And he likes it. And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the very last version of the prison game that he created. And the reason I think it works is that the prison is not actually in it.
Get that? The prison's not actually in it. All right, let's get going. It's a building, and it's nighttime, and we're in a matter of a hedge maze. Yep, got zapped inside the phone booth. Hello? Who is this? Hey, it's me. I'm you from after you escaped the prison. You're me?
It's a conversation. And so this is what Coda wants, is to be able to talk to someone, to share what's on his mind, and to get some good advice from someone who knows. But the irony is that even in this scenario, you're still talking to yourself. You know, all of these games so far are Coda talking to himself.
I'm just pushing buttons at this point. But then again, aren't we all? Doesn't all video game experience boil down to just pushing buttons? Oh no, that's awful. That's the worst thing I can imagine. Boop. For in order to free yourself, you must be true to the self that is yourself. Only then can you become the self that is yourself. Beep. Beep.
I can see why he considers this a fitting conclusion to the prison games. After all of the obsession and frustration, just to be told by someone you can trust that things are going to be okay. Wouldn't that be nice? So what would it look like if Coda wanted to make a game about talking to someone other than himself?
Ah, I remember this one. This one's kind of nice.
To me, this environment is meant to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have already played this game. Well, my goodness, I'm glad as heck that you showed up. Thought I might be having to clean the whole house by myself, and right miserable that would have been. Everybody knows how lonesome hands make lousy homes.
You'll notice that the quality of the art is a step up from previous games.
This is true.
Including this new and improved chat system, which he started using from this point on.
Okay, after this puzzle, we're going to stop and we're going to talk about what's going on in this game.
The visual polish of his work, and this particular game took 2 months to create as a result.
That really is nice looking, though. Make it especially cheesy. No, I definitely was upset when this puzzle ended. It's actually really nice. It's kind of zen. That was
After the
so
intense set of
cool.
prison games, this house cleaning level almost feels like cleansing. It's the moment after a particularly difficult or traumatic experience where you just need to let it sit and digest inside of you, and eventually cohere into something meaningful. I know that Coda really liked this game. Of Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at it. This was during a period of a few months where he was like grossly happy all the time, just walked around with a constant smile on his face.
Yeah. It's a good thought there. There's a bit of truth to it, no? We actually got to see that one change in front of us.
I'm glad he made this. I'm glad he found some peace.
Okay. I'm gonna pause this right here, and I'm gonna be right back. Just gotta quickly deal with something. Oh my, the live chat went away. Hang on, let's deal with this here. All right, so let's just quickly get through this bit. Had to say goodnight to my brother. He's more important than a live stream. Much as I love you guys. Well, loving is a bit much. Much as I appreciate you guys' audienceness.
But, of course, it can't last.
Motherfucker.
The music stops, your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
Bull. All right. All right. Okay. So, we are going to go back.
Which is the whole point of the puzzle doors, right?
We're going to go back to the menu
That
now.
sooner or later
Okay?
you have to pick up.
So, let's talk about this game. The beginner's guide, once you get to the end, is quite a twist. If you haven't played it before. It's... I wouldn't call the beginner's guide... I'm not sure if I'd call the beginner's guide a game. I think it's as much a game as Ace Academy is a game. It's definitely more of a visual novel. There isn't a mechanic really to it. Learning curve wise, we're getting into my multi-page review criteria here. All right, let's go through this step by step actually. Learning wise, there isn't a learning curve to it. It tells you all of the controls right up front. That being said, the controls are not a lot, to be honest. The upshot is that you can map the controls to essentially whatever you like. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in a joystick. There we go. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say we're going to do this. Ah, can you? Can you not do that? Is there a controller? There we go, gamepad. Enable. Couldn't find any gamepad. That's not true at all. Okay. So, from the options perspective, it's not anywhere near as comprehensive as a lot of other games that run on the Source engine, as this does. Portal, for example, has a plethora of options, and you can mount and you can bind keys to just about anything. It is windowable, which is nice. Quality, pretty good, all told. Sound. The fact So you may have noticed at times that there were periods where the voiceover was very strong, had to compete quite a bit with the sound effects and the music and whatnot. That to me is just completely on its own the case for having independent volume sliders for each thing. Ace Academy had that, and it was quite wonderful. But the quality of the sound effects and music was great. I think my favorite is the music in that house. Very peaceful, very calming. The good thing about the controls, though, is that you can adjust the sensitivity, which is excellent for people who have some sort of motor impairment. A lot of times people who have motor control issues use alternative input methods, and that makes the game more accessible to them. Vision. There isn't really much to augment the game if you have any sort of vision problems. Like there's no way to adjust the game for color blindness like there is in, I believe Overwatch has those same sort of controls. Again, I'm not really sure that this is a game. Because apart from just moving around, there isn't really a mechanic. You're just... Yes, of course I'm complaining about the audio levels. I'm an audio engineer. This game doesn't have a mechanic. You're just going through the game. It's essentially... it is essentially a roller coaster, like, type experience, except you're the one that has to crank the coaster. That's pretty much it. Aesthetically, again, it's the idea is that it's supposed to be a bunch of different games with disparate aesthetics, and in that way it does sort of make it. But this is nuts. But you know, meh. I wouldn't say that it could be judged by the same aesthetic readability, for example, as say Overwatch. And Overwatch readability is incredibly important because you have to, you know, be able to quickly identify different things that are moving around quickly in the game, and this doesn't have that issue. But I would say this for such a mishmash of a game, it's kind of hard to say whether or not the aesthetics. Walking simulators, I don't know. Stan, if you want me to suffer through more Sekai Project VNs, you can go vote them up. That's what the voting page is for. It's in the description. You can go vote them up. You can vote as many times as you want. I would actually say that the Victor Plays interactive queue is more of a game than this is. Although maybe that may be a little bit too harsh. Let's see. Back to the page. Here we go. During the course of the game, I would say that the characters of Coda and Davy are very well represented. They are great characters, especially towards the end when you actually get some feedback from Coda. And you get to see Davy, well, spoilers, break down. But I don't know. I feel like this could have been a hour-long video as opposed to a 3-hour-long game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to this game. It really is just a, you know, it's walking through a story, and you're not really interacting with it. I think Stanley Parable is actually more of a game, because you have. So the beginner's guide, you have one choice. You can either continue playing the game or not continue playing the game. Stanley Parable has more choices. I would say that it is still not I would say that it is a far more complex game than the beginner's guide, simply because it has that many choices. Every intersection is a choice you can make, which will get you a different story, and I think that's important. This having one choice to not play is not a choice, because I mean, it's highlighted as so in the Stanley Parable. You get dropped onto the conveyor belt with the crusher thing. It says, "You have a choice. You can end this. You can quit the game." And yeah, while that is a choice, having one choice, having only two options in front of you, does not a game make. And that's what this is. You can either continue playing or stop playing. And I don't think that's it. That would be like saying, yeah, but that's what I mean. That's like saying that a book is a game. You can either continue reading or stop reading. In the beginner's guide, moving forward through the game, having, just being able to just move through it, because you're on rails the entire time. Just having the choice to either continue moving on the rails through the game or not is, It's the same. It's basically the same choice you make when reading a book, and a book isn't a game. Although, if you were to consider a book a game, then the Stanley Parable is a choose-your-own-adventure novel. Which is fantastic, because that's the only kind of book that I would consider a game, a choose your own adventure, and that's definitely what the Stanley Parable is. Let's see. Oh, back. Yes, this card changes. I don't know about making a video, so you can get something about going along with Davey is more impactful when you interact with the game rather than watching. Yeah, so. The fact that, I will say this. I will cede you that. I will concede that point. Going through the game, so you're going through the game, and if you've never played this before, you have no. If you've never played the beginner's guide before, you have no reason to doubt that Davey. You have no reason to doubt what Davey is saying. You can continue with the pretense that he is telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It is only once you get towards the end of the game that wherein you need to stop and question Davey, Davey's sincerity and his honesty and whether or not this is a pretense, based on the fact that he has a breakdown and then includes it as part of the game. All the way up until the point where Davey was freaking out. The first time I played this, I legitimately thought he was just telling me through his experience and sharing these little games with me. So you get engrossed in that. But I think that's a comparable experience to reading an autobiography. Reading what you believe to be an autobiography, and then getting to the end where you see like a blood stain on the last few page, and the book not continuing from there. Because I think once you see that, you would get on, oh, this isn't an autobiography, it's a work of fiction. And I think that's sort of the same sort of switcheroo it has. A video, you might be able to pull off the same thing, but you won't be as engrossed. The inclusion of game mechanics is what creates the engrossness. And Stan, if you want to get me everything, I will need to bring out... before I can play that game, I would need to read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance one more time. Just to talk about, Zen. Okay. So, we can go... I'm going to take let's get rid of the beginner's guide here. Goodbye, the beginner's guide. Goodbye, the beginner's guide. And what we're going to do is we're going to load up a game. We're going to load up a different thing here. Browser source, browser source, browser source, Browser source. Browser source. Browser source. Look out. Boop. Yeah. All right. Dig that. So, oh no, I can't scroll through there. Shoot. No. There we go. Let's make the height bigger. Okay, so looks like somebody added a whole lot of votes to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. With that in mind, next week, assuming that I am not... Oh, wow, hold on, Yeah, because next Tuesday is going to be the 4th of July. Huh. Well, assuming I'm here to play games, because I might just be enjoying some wonderful time with my family. Assuming that is not the case, we will play Amnesia: The Dark Descent, or maybe not. Depends on how you guys vote, because it looks like out of nowhere, Nekopara Volume 1. It looks like there's actually been some significant shuffling on the queue here. Let's see, because last time I saw, yeah, look at that. Got Nekopara has 11 votes. Machinarium has 10. The Talos Principle is 10. The Talos Principle is another sort of pompousy kind of game. Or so I'm told. That I have not played. Nekopara Volume 1. That could be it. You know. We could play that. We could, or you'd have to vote for it naturally. But that is it for this episode of Victor Plays. We have until next Tuesday, possibly the Tuesday after that, because I might take 4th of July off. We have until next Tuesday for you to put your votes in for the next game. You can vote, of course, at victorplays.frost.works. That's the full URL. Link to that in the description. And until then, right. If you are in the Los Angeles area, I'm going to be performing at Anime Expo Monday. Next Monday, I'm going to be performing at AX. I'm going to be performing Steven Universe Live. And yeah, it's going to be at 7:30 p.m. at LPP5. What is it? It's gonna be at Here we go. Yeah, live programming 5 at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to record that and then put it up online. But yeah, you should come if you're in LA. If you're going to Anime Expo, you should come and see the panel. Okay, that is it. Good night, folks. Thanks for watching, and you'll see me next time on Victor Plays.